A closer look at some of the finest specialized schools. You ask, what makes a specialized school so special? I've spoken so much about specialized. You may be wondering, exactly what is it that makes such schools so special? It is a very reasonable and important question. Let me try to explain. Let's begin with the Windward School. I want to share with you some of the thinking behind the very best schools for dyslexia. One on the East Coast, the Windward School in White Plains and New York City. The other, Park Century School in Culver City in Greater Los Angeles. I want to share with you what insights I gained from speaking with the heads of each of these schools. We'll begin with my hero, John Russell, at the Windward School. I got a clue even before Russell became head of Windward. I was invited to meet with a group of superintendents on the BOCES, Board of Cooperative Educational Services of New York State, to talk about dyslexia. I asked these educational leaders if they had heard of the National Reading Panel, on which I had recently served. Of the dozen or so superintendents, only John Russell raised his hand. As usual, he was ahead of the crowd. Prior to coming to Windward, he was superintendent of a regular school. Even when I was a superintendent, I would constantly ask my director of special education, we keep identifying kids. Why don't we ever exit kids from this program? Where's the benefit of the program if the kids aren't able to return to the mainstream? So what were Russell's goals when he came to Windward? First and foremost, emphasizing that our students are smart, to preserve the school's mission, which is dedicated to clarifying for our parents and to some extent the larger general public that our kids are smart. Many people continue to harbor the mistaken idea that our kids are not cognitively able to do so many things that they indeed can do. That's one of the things that I recognized I had to really pay attention to, and I continue to fight that battle. Part of our mission statement is to share our expertise with the broader community. We want to disabuse independent schools and public schools of their notions about our kids so that when they leave here, they can go into a mainstream setting. And so, to me, job one was to set important expectations for what our students are capable of doing. What makes Windward so special? One of our great strengths is knowing exactly who are the kids we serve, not trying to serve all students with all disabilities, but really being laser focused on kids with dyslexia. Requiring teacher preparation of all Windward teachers. First, there is professional development, the input that teaches them what they need to know. Next is implementation, where the teachers go into the classroom and learn how to apply the what. This gives our future teachers a chance to practice that for a year and sometimes 2 years without actually being responsible for a class. Last, there is evaluation and supervision, which gives the teachers feedback on how they're implementing what they learned. Nobody teaches the first year they're here. Rigorous reliance on data and data analysis. We have the data and analyzed it. These data clearly showed that 98% of our students are in the average to above average range in reading comprehension on the standardized test. And that's normed against the so-called regular ed population. Russell likes to joke that at Windward, in order to get in, you have to fail the entrance exam. And then, When you start doing really well, we ask you to leave. I don't know of any other school does that as conscientiously as we do. On average, they stay about 4.5 years. So, when are the students ready to leave? When they've internalized all the skills that we've taught them. One of the things we pay very close attention to is teaching the kids self-advocacy skills. If a child is able to read and write well, and by that we mean approximating at least grade level work, then they have to also be able to self-regulate and self-monitor. We're famous for the structure we provide. The external structure is a surrogate for the self-regulatory skills that these kids have yet to develop. When you get the academic skills in place, the self-advocacy and self-regulatory skills in place, that's when the kids are ready to go. When the kids are getting their reading instruction, they're in groups varying in size. The average size is 10. There are usually 2 adults in the classroom. One is the master teacher, and one is an assistant teacher. We group homogeneously for the skills-based instruction. Reading is language arts, and we do 3 periods of language arts each day. Russell does not believe children have to have one-to-one instruction. Windward's program has excellent components, but of course, the outcome is what matters. Before students begin at Windward, they take a standardized test in reading and math. We get a baseline of where they are compared to a typical population. These tests are taken at the end of each school year and compared to their last year's performance. Compared to pre-Windward performance, 98%, yes, 98% are reading at or above their grade level in reading comprehension, and 96% at grade level or above in reading vocabulary. So, one might ask, is this just an immediate result, or do the gains persist? Windward students were also tested at least 2 years later in the schools they attended after leaving Windward. 98% of Windward graduates were in mainstream settings, and 97% were at or above their grade level peers academically. While the academics are terrific, what about Windward graduates' social emotional adjustment to their new school? Again, they do very well in terms of extracurricular participation. More and more schools, independent and public schools, are now accepting students with dyslexia who come from Windward. Well, what about post-secondary experience? Windward graduates are represented in selective colleges including Yale, Harvard, Brown, and University of Pennsylvania, just to name a few. What is Dr. Russell's strongest recommendation? Mandatory early identification would be my advice. Early, early, early. What I would tell parents is early detection, early identification is really the first step into a longer process. If you don't take that first step, the longer you wait, the steeper the hill you have to climb to get over that hump. The kids that we have detected early, the academic remediation may be as effective with older kids, but the difference is the kid's self-esteem, which in most cases has not been damaged. Early, early, early identification. As typical, great advice from Dr. Russell.